Roger, go for deploy.
This is a very sensual song. I'm trying to get my voice in the lyrics.
Looks like we're on here, fellas.
Excellent.
We are on.
Jordan Peterson. Here we go.
Jordan Peterson. There you
12
go.
rules, guys.
Moving on.
12 rules.
Yeah.
So Jordan Peterson's flown over from the US here to be on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks. Standing up straight, my shoulders back.
Elmo or Jordan Peterson?
I don't know. It's a bit of both.
All right. So before we Jordan Andrews, right?
That's it, yeah. Jordan Andrews.
Jordan Andrews. Okay. So before we welcome Jordan in and start talking about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, what he specialises in, we're going to welcome him with Tommy's Tribute, as usual.
Alrighty. Mr. Andrews, welcome aboard. Time of Your Life by Green Day today, and we've gone a little bit sensual. I'm not going to belt it out. I'm a little bit flat today, so...
This is amazing.
yeah, we'll see how we go.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Another turning point, now money's all online. So what does Bitcoin mean? It confuses my mind. So tell me, Jordan, why are people so obsessed? I just don't have a clue, it's stranger to me than incest. It's time to pick up your brain and learn why crypto is legit. Please help me so I don't counterfeit. Welcome.
Nice, dude.
Just a short
That was
little
awesome. That was awesome.
It is. It's very confusing to me. Very confusing.
I agree. I'm the same. I have no idea. It's one of the things that everybody's talking about. I have no idea how it works or anything about it. So, Jordan, mate, thanks for coming on the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Hey, thanks for having me.
Jordan and I know each other because Jordan came and stayed with me on Airbnb style, and you were kind of like my dating coach at the time, weren't you?
I was actually. I'm amazed you're bringing this up straight away. Yeah,
We're not going to go too deep into it, but
which is weird because I'm not the guy that should be giving dating advice, but it happened. Yeah,
It doesn't say much for old Doco over here.
You got to keep writing your notes.
Jordan was telling me how to teaching me how to play the game. I've never played the game before.
The Neil Strauss game.
No, not like this.
Okay.
Just like being like on off. Like Bill was just like committed, like all in, like
He's a
just like
committed
messaging
individual.
every second. And like Bill, give it
Ham
like
out 100%.
give it like give it half an hour, man, and he just wouldn't. So
All right, so let's get into some crypto stuff. Let's get off this topic.
For one thing, I just want to dive into that a little bit. I'm a bit interested about that. Now, why do we play? Why should you play the hot cold sort of thing? Why does that work?
like this is so. It just keeps them guessing, right? Like everyone's always more interested when you keep them guessing, and like it felt weird for Bill. Like Bill seems like a normal guy. He seems like a cool guy.
But he's fucked on the inside.
He was
not normal.
Desperate, man.
Right, that's been our show with Jordan Andrews. Thanks for coming, Jordan.
Anyway, crypto shit. Oh yeah, okay.
Why be releasing this, by the way?
But if you do like really like have a massive infatuation with someone, is it can you steam that train?
I
Pull
feel
that
like
ham?
you probably should, right? You probably should. There needs to be something though to keep him guessing, like because someone in the relationship has the power. Are you going to be that person, or are you going to be Bill?
Beach City.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I after all this after all this talk of playing the game and stuff, it got me thinking about I went through a bookstore in the airport and I found the book The Game.
Yeah.
So that's the only book. That's the first book I ever started reading. This is about 10 years ago. Started reading and put down. I said, this is fucking rubbish.
Yeah.
I reckon I'll get into it these days. I'd probably be able to read through it. But I saw Mark Manson's first book. So Mark Manson's Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So I read that. That was really good. His first book, he's only released 2 books. His first book is called Models. And it's called, the subheading is How to Attract Women Through... authenticity. That's what that subheading is.
Well, that sounds a bit more on point.
Yeah, and it's really good. It's more about like the human psyche. It's more about being like a good guy.
Yeah.
Like how to be an attractive guy, it's about like setting your life up so what you do is something that you're passionate about, how you convey that, how you are, like your confidence levels within yourself and so forth. And then there's a bit of stuff about how to approach chicks and all that kind of business as well. But
after all that sorted, go on, bang 'em.
Yeah. When I say the approaching chicks part, that's like 95% of the book, and all the other boring shit is like, probably 5%. Nah, just joking. But it's a really interesting read, and it has a big section about the authenticity in relationships and like playing the game. And so I feel like if it's a genuine relationship, I still go my way. I probably went a bit ham sandwich on the whole thing, but I still think like if it feels normal, it feels right, then I reckon you can go more balls to the wall than
balls to the clam.
Yeah. I feel like. But maybe I'm a psycho.
No, I think that makes sense. I
definitely see what you're saying though. Like I feel like when my missus and I were first getting into it, like I definitely felt like it was really good, except there was still like a bit of. You don't want to keep them guessing, but you want to keep it like kind of fun to the point where like if you just go nuts and like I love you to bits and here's my knob, like like it's like there's no more fun. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like I'm really looking forward to our next date, but then just kind of let it off so that we both have the time to think about each other. So that when we get to the date, it's really great. You know? Yeah.
There's actually science behind. Sorry to go on about this forever and ever, but there's actually science behind like a flow, like sales wise. If you're doing like text sales, like chat sales, there's a flow, and I forget what it's called, but rhythm. It's something rhythm, and it's like the rhythm of a conversation, a written conversation. Like you never want to go like, hey, how was your weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Text block.
Yeah.
How was yours? Mine was awesome. What are you doing this week? Like, it fucks it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not... What's going on here?
Yeah.
You buy out of the whole conversation.
I think it's about, like, matching.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And it's like, so if they're playing games with you have to play a little games with them. Like,
totally.
Otherwise, if they're all in, text block. Like,
that's right. That's how it is. And that rhythm's like, it's basically matching the rhythm of the conversation. For if you want to, if it's a conversation that, if it's your girlfriend or your mum or your fucking, co-worker, the conversation's going to...
He's a psychopath, mate. What sort of advice are you giving him?
Your mum. If I'm texting your mum, I can't hook up there. Obviously, what I'll do is...
That's the same with my dad.
Thanks, Mark, man.
Jesus Christ.
So, Jordan, funny start to the show, but...
Very good.
Mate, we're here to talk about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. I want to learn all about it. And I thought, what better way to get someone who works in it on the show, someone who really knows about it. So, tell us about yourself. Tell us where you fit into the whole Bitcoin crypto puzzle, mate.
Yeah, sure. So basically, kind of since like early last year, so for about a year now, I've been working in crypto. So I work as a software developer. It's like coding and stuff. And so all along the way, I've been working in the smart contracts area. So we probably want to talk about like what smart contracts are soon. But
I
so
think
I
that
started
table's
out.
moving the camera a bit, hey.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
I'll try not to budge that. Yeah, okay.
Crypto.
Games. Yeah. But yeah, so always in like the smart contract area. And so it started out, I was building out some kind of low level tools for Ethereum, which you may have heard of. And later came to realize, I was speaking to the guys at Stratus, where I work now, realized that our values are super aligned. And so now I'm kind of building out the smart contracts platform at Stratus. So that's basically kind of where I'm at, like just a developer in the space working on a cool coin. And yeah.
And so... what do you do?
No, what are smart contracts? You mentioned smart contracts. Like before we go any further, like what does a smart contract mean?
Yeah, cool. So it's kind of, I guess you have to. A smart contract is kind of like a codified way of expressing some interaction. So when you like go to Woolies, you buy one apple, you pay for one apple, right? And it's like Woolies acts as like the kind of the middleman there. Is like they make all the rules, they make like the price of an apple, and kind of all of that happens through Woolies. The idea with a smart contract is you can start mapping out complex interactions. Later put them on the blockchain. And so things like, that whole Apple buying situation, you can have a situation where there's just a contract that exists on the blockchain. Bill, you have an apple. Tommy, you want to buy an apple. And you guys can like match and buy it. And there's no Woolies. There's no central entity.
There's no middleman whatsoever.
Someone like me, some software developer has just written a contract that's like if one apple, match. And then, so you can imagine like, because if you think of like Bitcoin as V1, and that's great because like we can send each other funds, but any interaction is not just sending funds. Like it maybe I'm buying a house off you. And if I want to buy a house off you, we need to change the deed. You need to verify my identity. All this stuff needs to happen. Who does that? Again, like a big central entity. So that's kind of like where smart contracts comes in, is it kind of fixes all of that stuff. It's like, this isn't just about decentralizing currency now. This is about decentralizing any like big scale like financial interaction.
And so where's the income generated? So if you're essentially taking out the middleman, is it a commission based thing per sale for you guys, or how does that?
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. So you could models are still being come up with and kind of experimented with, and there are a range of them at the moment. So there are currently some tools that people have built, like say index funds that are completely they do the work themselves in a smart contract, and maybe the developers take 1%, but otherwise everything else goes to the users. So you imagine by wiping out that like fund manager or whatever, of course the developers still take some money, but it's nowhere near as intense as like the kind of like what the financial institution would take to pay all their marketing team, their everything team.
100%. Yeah, that's fascinating.
It is.
I know we're going to get back to more stuff like that for sure. What I think we should do is let's talk about like, where did it begin? Where did cryptocurrencies begin? Bitcoin, how does it work? Let's start with where did it begin? Because there's a lot of people that are probably in my shoes, which I know absolutely fuck all about Bitcoin. And there's a lot of people that have probably invested in Bitcoin that know equally fuck all.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing, right?
Yeah. That's so good for you guys. Yeah. So I don't know what you do, but here's $1 million.
That's what it's like, right?
Yeah.
So where did it start? Explain Bitcoin.
Sure. So it started in 2009, and this is like, it's kind of like a fascinating story. You might know a little bit about this. It's like no one really knows who created it. Wow. So some guy, there was
God, maybe.
In like 2009, it's the second coming. Yeah. So in like 2009, this guy was on a mailing group, or this guy some group.
Well, Godfrey, if you're not into that.
He sent out this paper and like a bunch of code and was like, hey guys, like I've built basically a decentralized peer-to-peer currency. And it was signed by the name Satoshi Nakamoto. And to this day, like we don't know, no one knows who that is. There's like speculation that it's one of maybe 4 people. It's speculation that maybe there was a group of people working on it. But it's kind of amazing. It's like literally like someone just came and just dumped this thing. Was like, and so all these cryptographers that were on this mailing list, like a couple of them started getting in on it and also started mining Bitcoin. So they now have a network of a few people. They start telling their friends. It's kind of grows out from there. And so since 2009, it's kind of Bitcoin has been steadily growing with this code base that like no one knows where it came from. Almost. Really? It's super cool.
That makes it so much cooler.
It makes it so much cooler.
I thought it was going to be boring. That's fucking really interesting.
Satoshi Nakamoto, eh?
That's it.
The infamous.
Wow.
And there's like all kinds of theories. Like some people say the name is like, there's graphics of like Samsung, Toshiba. If someone reckons they just got like brands and just like mapped out and just, okay, like that's the name. And so it's just like a pseudonym. But basically it seems like Satoshi Nakamoto isn't a person called Satoshi Nakamoto. Yep. That person doesn't exist. Yep. And there's like studies about like linguistics and stuff that they have probably come from a certain origin, but it's crazy. Like the 100%, we can't say it's any person.
Really?
Super cool. Yeah.
It's kind of like the internet to a degree. Like they talk about like, I think it was one of the presidents or the head of the military in the US or something. It was, I can't remember exactly. They have like an idea of like who started the first, web-based information transactions, but no one says Alexander Graham Bell. There's no Alexander Graham Bell for
Johnny.
For the internet. It's quite a funny scenario. So how does it work then, though, Jordan? Like,
sure.
Like obviously starting out, back in the day, and then now. Let's talk about Bitcoin because it's the largest for the time being. But like, how does it actually work? What are the applications? Like, explain that.
Yeah, sure. So just how it works. So obviously, in the case of like a currency, usually you have kind of a central bank that issues based on like what they think is best, and they're probably trying to do the best for their country or for everyone. In Bitcoin, what you have is basically across a network of millions of computers, millions of nodes. Every computer has a complete database of all the current transactions and essentially all the current balances as well. So if you're running a Bitcoin node, I'm running a Bitcoin node, we both have all of the information about like how much balance Tommy has, right? And so that's That's crazy then.
It's not much, mate.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you going to date tonight? No,
Check my,
thank you.
check, do they accept Bitcoin? Like,
What about that dick? Sorry.
just get it in there.
First one.
But so it's kind of distributed completely across like millions of computers, and these computers all speak to each other. And there are some very certain rules about how you can kind of build on top of this transaction list. So if we want to send funds between each other, we have to essentially submit a transaction to this big network. And then there's what you've probably heard of as mining, which is computers kind of race to try and add their set of transactions to the network. So not necessarily their set, but they grab a set, they try and add this to the network. And this is kind of monitored by computing power. So mining is essentially you have a computer that's doing like heaps of operations per second. And if you do this like crazy operation and you get this lucky number that has a lot of zeros in it, this is like super simplified, but hopefully that's okay.
It's still really so complex to me.
yeah. So basically it's kind of like a race condition around the world. Everyone's trying to get this lucky number. And if you get it, that's a block creation. You'd go and tell everyone else in the network, and it's added to everyone else's database. So now our databases are both updated. And so it's amazing, right? Because every single computer has a complete list of all the transactions, all the everything. And so there's no
complete
Westpac.
information.
Exactly. There's no Westpac. It's just it's on everyone's computer.
So then how do you make money from it? Like how's that? Like, why has it become so crazy to the standard person, I guess?
Yeah, okay. So the main thing there is scarcity, right? So obviously value for anything is about like scarcity and utility.
Yeah.
And so utility is a super hard discussion, but in terms of scarcity, there's only ever, if we're talking only about Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million mined. 21 million created. So the rules for issuance in Bitcoin, unlike when we have like a central bank or reserve bank and they decide when money comes out, for Bitcoin, the rules are very explicit. Like for this 4 years, we're going to give out 50 every block to whoever created the block. Then for the next 4 years, it'll be 25. The next 4 years will be 12.5. And that's where we're at right now is 12.5. And this will happen until I think it's somewhere around like 2140 or something.
Right.
And so the issuance like keeps reducing and is completely fixed. And so obviously because of this scarcity, people are already holding a lot of Bitcoin. People want to go and buy more. And so especially when you see things in the news, like Bitcoin hit, you saw probably ages ago, Bitcoin hit like 2,000. People started racing to buy Bitcoin. It went from 2,000 within a year, it went up to basically 20,000. I think in Australian dollars, it hit something like $26,000 or something. And that's all it is. It's just this scarcity. Is there's not enough of them to go around. Like holding one Bitcoin now is like a lot of money. It's like 10 grand, right? So
okay, so that's fair. 100%. Like that's just,
that's
supply and demand.
supply.
Supply and demand. That's that makes perfect sense to me. But what are the actual applications? Like, why is Bitcoin going to be? And I had a conversation with Hugo, who sits right behind us there. Hugo works with Beck, a good friend of mine, and Beck. I mentioned that you were coming in. Beck's like, "Oh, Hugo's big into cryptocurrency." When just before you came in, Jordan, Hugo walked past. I'm like, Hugo, hey, what are the big questions you'd like to ask somebody in cryptocurrency? And he was talking about like the real world applications for, not talking about like the fact that the fact that we're decentralizing the banks, the fact that there's a whole ledger that everyone can see very transparency about what is going on in the state of everybody's money. But he was talking about like what he does. I didn't totally understand it, but when he travels, he puts money into his Bitcoin or whatever account in Australia. He goes over to the UK and then he withdraws that Bitcoin into cash, and he just pays zero transaction fees. So,
really?
Yeah. Is that true? So that's pretty interesting. So, but talk to us about like what are the actual applications? Like, is this going to be the future of all transactions?
Yeah.
Like what's
that's contentious and controversial in itself. And so,
you just throw him under the bus. Is that illegal?
Did I just throw him?
Hugo, let's get him in here.
No. Like, it's super hard. So say some people will believe that, we're trying to replace currency, and that within some like hardcore purists, like crypto anarchists, like, in 10 years, there's going to be no fiat currency. It's going to be all Bitcoin. And I don't subscribe to that at all. So I feel like very much it's kind of just like the use case Hugo described. It kind of acts as it has uses that are kind of separate from fiat currency, like because you don't have to worry about holding any one fiat currency in one particular country, or I think the most important thing is like right now in Venezuela. Do you know what's happening in Venezuela?
With the US dollar on the black market.
Yeah,
kind of stuff,
but
you mean, or?
their believer is they're going through like a period of rapid hyperinflation, and the same thing happened in like Zimbabwe in like 2008, 2009.
You can get a $1 trillion note in Zimbabwe off the street for like $2.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yeah.
Real. It's just useless. It's a banana currency. It is a real
piece
note.
of shit.
Yeah.
But
piece of shit. Or for lack of a better term.
So, but like what it means for people living there, obviously the government has somehow worked themselves into a situation where they have to keep printing money to fulfill some commitment. And so it means for the people, like you get paid at the start of one month, and by the end of the month, your money's worth nothing. Which is obviously really problematic. So something like this decentralized currency, like the keyword really is decentralized, and that's the main value, is that in a situation like in Venezuela, you don't have to you don't have to worry about issuance. You don't have to worry about the government like overplaying their printing to like benefit themselves. And so because kind of no one can cheat, no one can do anything like this. So I understand like in Western society, like Bitcoin itself, I don't think there's a massive value there. Like I don't think it's going to replace the Australian dollar or the US dollar anytime soon. I think one thing that's really exciting that it's doing is encouraging everyone to like reevaluate the value of things. Fiat currency, right, is insane because we kind of just accept it. It came from the government. Government said, this is legal tender, but it's actually it's a bit of paper.
Yeah, that's right.
Like
it's not the gold standard anymore.
Exactly. So people compare that to like Bitcoin, and it's actually like really interesting to watch people's like minds flip because Bitcoin's not worth anything.
No.
But
zeros and ones.
Yeah, but like neither is fiat. Like it's just because the government said it is. So it's like trusting a decentralized network versus trusting your government. It's kind of just
money is the ultimate religion for sure. Like it's the ultimate belief system that we all run by. But the question I have with this is that Bitcoin, it's all online. It's all binary, I believe, or whatever. With physical currency, that's obviously, if it's in my hand, it's liquidated completely. But if it's online, it's that understanding of like it's. I just have the feeling that like if I had $10 in my hand, that would be a stronger income or a stronger
$10
value.
Stronger $10 than $10 online.
Than having something somewhere else where it's
I know
like.
what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? So
it's kind of like having money tied up in the stock market or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not tangible
100%
and you can grab it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Like,
well, the whole thing with the gold standard is the gold standard was like, if you have, we have another name. We have another thing we call the gold standard. We can't mention on
after the show.
We said some fucked up shit on this podcast.
We really can't
cannot mention what the gold standard is.
I'm so excited.
If any listeners want to know, email me or Tommy, and we'll let you know.
I'm gonna hit up Twitter after this. Go, oh my god!
Anyway, so the gold standard is like. That's when your money was backed by gold. There was enough gold to back the money that was in the world, right? Am I correct in saying that? That's what the gold standard is, right? So when we went away from the gold standard, it means there was more money than basically you could get back in value of actual money in the bank. Tommy, get over it.
Lost it. It's just really funny.
So I'll stop saying gold standard, mate. But
he said gold standard in the bank. Just made a little fun.
But we've been removed from the gold standard for so long. So I mean. Yeah, I agree with you. Like the fact that if there was a huge depression worldwide, not recession but depression, like everyone would want to take the money out of the banks, and that's not possible to happen. So it's not possible. I mean, Bitcoin's the same. You can't. What do you do with ones and zeros? Another question is like, so I just read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Oh yeah,
and he's the PayPal founder, and with Elon Musk, one of the founders, and he talks about like he kept mentioning with PayPal they were trying to make a deregularized currency for the instead of the US dollar. That's what he was saying, and that's all well and good. And PayPal's great, but what they've ended up doing is they've ended up becoming just a merchant.
Yeah.
That PayPal, you pay 3%. If you're a regular Joe Blow, you pay 3%. If you're a business, you can pay down to like 1 or 1.5%. But they're still they've replaced the banks. You know what I mean? They're still making just as much money as the bank. That to withdraw, use your money, send your money, you're still paying the same amount that you would use, probably more so in a lot of senses. You know what I mean? But I don't know exactly what their business model was, what they were trying to do. But Peter Thiel kept saying, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know well enough. But Peter Thiel kept saying that they were trying to do exactly what you just explained Bitcoin to be. So what's to stop? So who is the governing body of Bitcoin, Ethereum? What's the third like biggest one?
You could go like Litecoin, Ripple.
Yeah, Litecoin, Ripple. Yeah.
Maybe.
Like who runs the show there? Who makes the calls? Makes decisions?
So it's like varying degrees of centralization. Yeah. So it started with Bitcoin, and interestingly, it's become almost a problem for Bitcoin. But there's no kind of the whole idea is obviously no one owns it. Yeah. Certainly no one owns the network. The only way to change the code or update it to do anything is to get consensus from everyone. So you imagine if we're all running the same program and we want to kind of upgrade it to maybe do some extra thing, we all have to update our programs. So you really have to get the whole world or at least a greater portion of the world to agree, okay, this is what we're doing and this is how we upgrade. And so why that's become a problem for Bitcoin is it's very hard then for them to progress because you have different people with different ideas about how you should scale this. How do we get more transactions per second? How do we get more users? And when people disagree, of course, you can never get the network to move forward in like the best technological way. So then if you look at something like Ethereum has like a very different model. And so they have this thing called the Ethereum Foundation. And it's kind of like a centralized entity that really controls the development. They say when the forks are going to be, and fork is like, like an upgrade of the code. And yeah, so it completely, they all have like different ways of handling that. The actual network itself cannot be messed with, but the kind of the program that runs can be like slowly upgraded by gradually getting everyone to agree to some changes, if that makes sense.
So it's completely democratized.
Yeah, completely democratized. Like people would argue that things like Ethereum are too centralized. They're very much reliant on some great geniuses at the very top of them. But for the most part, like they're becoming more and more democratized. And like I think like some coins now will have like multiple development teams. They might have like 4 development teams that all push code. They check each other's code. They like gradually kind of work together, but as separate teams. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how will it change the way that we do business and money in the future? I feel like, and obviously I know nothing, but I feel like from what you were telling me about, you can write a certain block that'll be in there that'll be like, hey, Tom buys an apple from Bill. Use that block. There's no middleman, no transaction fee, no whatever. You actually probably pay way closer to the price of what an apple costs compared to going through Woolworths, as that example. A real estate, again, if you can take out, well, I mean, you have to have people that are marketing your house to sell your house. You're not going to just walk up to a bloke and, so there's that side of it. Yeah. But there's, how can it not, if it's so good in so many ways for like transparency, for lack of fees, for,
how do you guys make any money off it then if there's like little to no middleman fee?
Yeah, good. Like, so, I mean, firstly, ideally, there should be little to no middleman fee. So there should be some fee that the developers do get. But also, so how a lot of these projects are funded, they have like interesting governance models. So like the community votes, say, obviously, I work for Stratus. The community might vote, hey, this is something that's great for Stratus. This is going to increase our transactions per second. This is going to allow us to have like more functionality. And people will pull money towards it, especially people who got in early and maybe they're like whales in that particular cryptocurrency. So yeah, you have these like really interesting governance models where people can start getting paid in a more, it's kind of like social way, like rather than... Yeah, like you don't have to take a fee off every contract or whatever. It's like you crowdfund, be like, hey, this is something I'm going to do. It's going to increase value for everyone. Yeah. If you can raise enough money, then yeah, you can go and do it.
That makes sense. So, I definitely get that. Yeah. And then so if we relate this back to you, what's your current like what are you actually working towards what are your objectives in the years to come with what you're doing?
Yeah, cool.
I'm trying to like really get my head around it.
Yeah,
it's really tough.
So fun.
Yeah.
How did you even figure it out?
Well, like I'd love to do a
never
better.
did.
I feel like I should do a better job of explaining it, but it is super
It's
tough.
not
right?
your fault.
you,
It's
man.
our puny brains, mate.
I'm a shit. Yeah.
So
Still thinking about the gold standard.
Dick. I didn't read my thoughts, boy.
I can't wait for this. So for myself, it's because I had exactly the same problem, and so there's like a high barrier to entry there, and this barrier to entry exists when you want to buy crypto. It exists like when you want to learn about what's happening, and
Massive.
even more when you're a developer and you're trying to learn how we get involved here. It's impossible. I found it like next to impossible. I ended up I was super lucky. I got kind of recruited and taken through this like academy where they because they desperately needed developers in the space, and so I learned a ton there. But so what my whole perspective now looking at the scene, especially in regards to smart contracts, is I want to make this as easy as possible for like developers all over the world. So you imagine you even have like a company like maybe Microsoft, maybe like some local development team here has a bunch of developers and they want to start getting involved in blockchain. Either they can go and learn a whole bunch of like new tools, new languages. They can maybe spend months learning all of this knowledge and stuff, or they can come to like hopefully our platform Stratus, where we're using like existing programming languages, existing tools.
Yep.
And so that's exactly where I am right now.
Okay.
It's trying to reduce that barrier to entry so that developers can start building cooler contracts. So like the Apple thing we mentioned earlier, or you can replace like whoever like the public housing deed or something like this. That's kind of where I'm coming at right now.
Okay.
So with smart contracts, so I'm just, again, like Tommy said, trying to get my head around it while you're explaining it. So with smart contracts, for example, when is that ever going to be actually a usable thing to a degree? That example for the best case is the example of the Apple and the Apple. Like I'm not, we don't have local. Hey, I'm just going down to Doc's Apple store. To buy an apple. Hey, Tommy, you got that blockchain? Oh, cool, we're already on the blockchain. Here's an apple for an apple. And then with the real estate example, it's another good one. But then again, like, how is it actually usable in the real world? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. So, firstly, the Apple thing's maybe not like a great example of a real thing in the real world because it's just too easy. Like, if you go down to Woolies, I'm happy to pay like a greengrocer to buy an apple. That's not like the level of corruption and transparency doesn't need to be massive there as long as I can buy my apple.
Yeah. Everyone needs vitamin C.
Exactly.
Apple a day, they say.
Yeah.
What do they say about that?
Gets a gold standard.
Yeah. So more important cases are things like any kind of decentralized marketplace where people are buying and selling. Say Airbnb, Uber are like great examples of this. I like Uber is a great example right now because it's just, to me, Uber feels slightly like they need to be more transparent. Like, when does it surge? At what ratio of like riders to drivers does it surge? Or is there just like a board of people that decided, in Melbourne, it's a Saturday, let's surge, we could make more money. And like, obviously they're then going and spending a whole bunch of money building out their brand and stuff like. So I think in terms of like real applications, screw the Apple. Like we're going for like Uber or something. And then there's a whole range of problems we still need to fix. And this is where the public hype has gotten so much. The price has risen so much. There's billions of dollars going around. But the reality is, these like Bitcoin now can handle like 6 transactions a second. Okay, right. And you compare that to like Visa.
That's not much at all.
Because Visa's average, and it's not a great comparison, but Visa's average is 2,000 a second.
Yeah.
And they can get up to say 60,000 in like a Christmas period or something. So, and this is like, it's a hard problem to solve. It's not something we can solve tomorrow. And so it's going to take potentially years. I mean, hopefully within 2 to 5 years, we'll have some really solid scaling solutions so that we can have situations where we're processing many, many things a second and we can start running real applications like Uber. And so the whole idea then would, once we fix like usability as well, because if you've ever tried to buy or sell cryptocurrency right now, you're probably grabbing like an address, copying it and pasting it, putting it in some wallet. You have to download these tools, maybe have stuff on your phone, like confirm, like it's way too complicated, right? We need like more levels of abstraction and more usability so that when you interact with it, it'll feel like you're interacting with the internet, right? It shouldn't feel like a separate thing. And so that's where we're like actually pretty far off now, but people don't think about that. They just buy it and the price goes up.
I want to ask you if this story is true or not, right? So it's Friday night here at the Commons tonight, and there's beers going on from 4 p.m. Free beers and cider here, but it's actually an event. It's like Friday night drinks the last Friday of every month. It's a thing they just started to do. And there's this guy here. I forget his name. He's a classic dude. I've talked to him a couple of times, and I've only had beers here a couple of times, so I've talked to him both times. And he was talking about, this is about 6 weeks ago, when before like crypto had crashed, like when it was at, I know it's recovered and whatever, but when it was like at its most feverish pitch, everyone's talking about it. You know, every second post on Facebook, and he was talking about crypto and how much money he's made, all this stuff. And he told me that he has a mate who bought cryptocurrency in like, when did you say it was in 2009?
It's like 2010. It kind of started becoming public at all.
Yeah. So he said maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. So let's say 2010, 11, whatever. He said that his mate bought a bunch of Bitcoins. He had like 20 of them, right? Or 25, 25, like so many of them. But back in the day, he's like, what used to happen is you used to get a code, like you used to get like a bunch of numbers, like just any sort of code that you get from any sort of whatever off the internet. And that code, you had to keep that code safe because that was your code to access your Bitcoin, so on and so forth, right? Is this true?
It's a paper wallet. That's what it's called. Yeah.
So they used to have your Bitcoin in a paper wallet. And so this dude went on a bender and like I think he was like on a Greek trip or whatever, and then he jumped off a boat with his shorts on. He had his wallet in his pocket, and all his codes, he had them all in his wallet, and they were all trashed. But at the time, it was like they were like $20 each or like $15 each, and he was like, fuck. He's like, oh man. He goes, fuck all my Bitcoin. Everyone's like, what the fuck's Bitcoin? He's like, it's this fucking stupid thing I've wasted $300 on. Wasted $300 on. 25 of them. Wasted $300 on. Don't worry about it. And he just fucking threw them in the bin. You know, 25 of them. And
that's horrible.
No.
That's horrible.
6 years later, it's worth like $600,000. And I just wanted to verify that story because that's like such a mental.
That is.
Yeah. That's how it used to work, eh?
That's real. It still works like that. It's potentially one of the most secure ways of you imagine.
Let's just jump into the ocean.
Most secure way of writing all your money down on a bit of paper and putting it in your wallet.
No,
trying to press chicks on a boat.
It sounds ridiculous.
Have a look at this.
So how you kind of are able to move funds is you essentially have some private key. It's kind of like a password, and that is what essentially allows you to move your money. And so one of the if you go and write it down, because obviously if you do things like print it, you do things like maybe send it to a USB, you have it stored in an email, stored in a Google Drive, hackable, really hackable. So what the securest way of doing it?
Surely not.
Oh, dude, they can't have Dropbox. Are you kidding? Infallible.
Yeah.
Sweet.
No, Trello?
Trello.
Literally, that has all of my passwords.
Are you serious?
Like, genuine. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I got to move that?
No, that's cool. I saw your Trello up before, so like.
Fuck. You're right. Yeah.
It's like Combank, was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jordan Andrews. 6969.
Yeah.
Belts down.
But yeah, so that's like, you imagine you take it from the computer screen, write it down on like a notepad or something and put it in a safety deposit box. Potentially that actually could be the safest way if you were seriously scared of like cybercrime or something.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's
Should
nuts,
we be
but
scared
that's
of that?
real.
Should we be scared of cybercrime? Like, is that coming up?
In terms of like, that's not something I know enough about.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm asking you, mate.
Is that coming up in the next few weeks?
Yeah.
Us Trump, man. Us Trump.
Yeah.
Like, he'd know about that stuff.
That stuff freaks me out. Apparently, like 3 months ago or something, there were like 100,000 different WordPress sites that got hacked from people that buy and sell like WooCommerce or something on WordPress. They were just sending all these blackmail things to 100,000 WordPress sites. It freaks me out.
What about,
especially from someone that owns a website that doesn't sell anything?
Wow.
You know?
What about when Adventure's website got hacked? Did I tell you about this back in the day?
I feel like I remember it.
Yeah, so Adventure's website got hacked. We got a Joomla website. Joomla sucks for websites. Sorry if the founder of Joomla's listening, but your website sucks. Sorry.
I heard that.
So anyway, I got out there and my website shut down. So what happened was I went on my computer and someone had emailed me. They're like, "Hey man, I think something's going on with your site. You might want to just Google Adventure Travel." And I'm like, "Yeah, sweet." I Google Adventure Travel, and nothing had happened to like Adventure Travel, www.adventure.travel, but is it called metadata? Like the basically the little bio of what your website does below. If you look at Google, is it metadata?
Like description or something.
Description, yeah. So Basically, this description was Russian hookers, XXX, pony riding naked cowboys, like all this. Yeah, it was all the most fucked up, like epic shit you could ever imagine.
You got heaps of traffic though.
Yeah,
Right?
no shit. So last year I was.
I don't want a New Zealand trip. I don't want a gay Russian hooker.
Yeah. But it would change every day though. So it was so funny, pygmy dog hooker, mine was a pygmy dog hooker. But anyway, I had a business coach at the time, and he's like, we're looking at our Google Analytics, and he's like, right, his whole thing was, look, let's trace back over the last 12 months the posting patterns and when you upload this and that, and let's see when you got the most traffic to your site, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't have anywhere near enough rhyme or reason or enough that I thought it was a bit of a silly exercise to a degree, but at the time, just with what we were putting out there, whatever. But anyway, it went like this. So it was like, January, February, March, April, and he's like, oh, this, what did you do in this period? I'm talking, it was like 70 times every other month, and I'm like, Ariane, what could have done that, mate? He's like, oh, you tell me. I'm like, our site got hacked, Russian XXX hookers, mate.
What I love is the fact that he keeps saying the word got hacked. I'm like, come on, mate, you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, I'm trying to post. Pygmy dog lovers, Pygmy dog lovers.
That's so funny.
It's a potential marketing tool, though. We are a crypto site. We also do Russian hookers, but we're a crypto site if you want to email me personally.
So I feel like I don't know enough about it, but I feel like when you're saying you don't expect it to take over the Australian dollar, US dollar, so on and so forth, but surely we're gonna go to 6 from 6 shortly, but I've got one more question. I don't know, Tommy might have another question, but I want to get you out of it at some point, Jordan. But the thing I want to talk about before we do is predictions of the future and stuff, because I feel like cryptocurrencies, for me, I feel like it must be the future or a fad to a degree. Or do you think it'll be something that'll work alongside PayPal, the US dollar and regular currencies?
So I definitely see them being kind of like a complement to the US dollar and Australian dollar and stuff for a while. I think one thing that is definitely going to happen is the value will start being consolidated into a top few cryptocurrencies and top few by technology. I think ones will slowly start winning in terms of if one is able to crack it and grab 100 transactions per second and everyone else is stuck on 6, that'll start getting really ahead. If we start having a really great developer experience, we might start having the best apps, we'll crack it, we'll get really high up there. And I think all of this value because value is just getting pumped into even garbage coins, all these coins where someone's just going to create a new cryptocurrency, they give it a name that people think is fun, and they
Jordan coin,
Jordan coin, exactly. Geordie coin, invest
Geordie
now.
coin. Yeah.
I'll put up a link after the show. And you get billions of dollars, and I think all of that's going to start falling away. That's worthless. There's no real value there. But what will start happening, I think, is I can call a few coins that I really see a lot of value in, and I think all of the value will start shifting to the top of them. And I think maybe a few of those maybe general purpose coins will start really being integrated into society. And so we can just start interacting with some decentralized applications, not worry about entity corporate or government entities or whatever having an unfair say. That's kind of my prediction.
So how far off are we from walking down the street, pulling out a Bitcoin card as opposed to your ANZ card and payment transactions?
I think there are projects that are really letting you do that now. I don't know enough about them, but I think
some stuff.
I think it's mainly in Asia. There's definitely a bunch of projects because obviously that's a super appealing idea is, if you have all your crypto on a card, you just go and swipe it and I spend some Ethereum rather than spending my dollars. I think that actually is close to existing if it doesn't exist already.
Wow. Classic, right.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to add, Tommy? Should we go to 6 from 6?
That's good. Yeah. 6 from 6.
I feel like I've learned nothing.
Yeah.
And not because of you, my friend. Because of my puny brain. I'm telling you. My puny brain.
I definitely understand.
I've learned a lot.
I definitely understand it more in layman's terms, which is obviously just what I wanted to get. Like the stuff about the, cancelling out the transaction fee.
Only joking.
I got you.
The gold standard, obviously.
Mainly the gold standard.
Yeah, the gold standard. We will tell you what it is.
So, all right, cool. Well, Jordan, so normally to finish the show, 3 questions from me, 3 questions from Tommy. So my first question, my friend, is what is your favourite travel destination you've ever been?
Cool. So for me, it's Istanbul.
Istanbul?
Yeah.
Really?
Nice.
I haven't had that one.
I don't think we have.
Don't reckon we've had Istanbul.
Great.
Really?
Why so?
Oh, it's just infinite, right? It's just expansive. There's just people everywhere. You think like you'd be in the CBD and like find like just the stuff going on everywhere, like people selling stuff, like wares, like all kinds of shit happening. You turn a corner expecting, okay, like I'm gonna be out of it now, and it's just the same thing. It's just like for kilometers, like it's just non-stop Istanbul. Like it's crazy, yeah.
Cool.
It's such a weird thing to like about it. There's just people everywhere. It's great.
Yeah,
It's infinite.
Yeah,
We're living in multi-Istanbul.
because it's like it's I get that because it's different. It actually feels like a completely different world.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like it's
Very
That's
fair.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Next question, similar vein, but a place you haven't been. So dream travel destination, top of your bucket list.
yeah. So I have like a trip, I guess. So I want to do the Trans-Siberian Express.
Oh yeah.
So
Very
obviously,
cool.
like start up in Beijing and travel through Mongolia and through to St. Petersburg.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
that's definitely the dream.
What makes that appeal to you so much?
I think just to get like an idea of like the bigness of the world. Like I've heard people.
There's a running theme here.
Good word.
Yeah,
Word, the
yeah,
bigness.
like big things.
Like expansiveness.
Yeah.
I think Jordan's lost all his credibility with the word bigness.
The data range of the cryptocurrencies is bigness, essentially.
Oh god.
Now
Yeah.
you're on a level.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I've heard like people do that trip and like you can go to sleep like next to like this like the world's biggest lake or something, and you'll be traveling 12 hours and you wake up and you feel like you're in the exact same time and you're like checking the watch and you're like 12 like what like this and and then you really get a sense of like wow, this place is massive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sick. Very, very famous journey. So that's sick. My last question is, do you have any books you like to recommend? It can be anything, can be a graphic novel, can be a autobiography, can be a self-help book, can be whatever.
Yeah, cool. I have one amazing novel. It's Fraction of the Whole.
Oh, yeah.
By Steve Tolt. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's just extremely cleverly written, like Australian fiction about like a very eccentric family. And every word there's a lot of like irony, and you read a paragraph and things are subverted. Everything. It's super cool. Just read it.
Fraction of the whole.
Fraction of the whole. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we look that up? Anyone? You can't look it up on Pornhub or anything.
www.youporn.com.
Yeah. Fraction of the whole.
Just to clarify, it's WHOLE. No.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking hell, we just got terrible minds.
Oh, God. It's so bad. Isn't it? We just can't have one serious conversation. Yeah. It's just embarrassing. It is genuinely embarrassing.
That's my questions.
70% of it's me as well.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
that's us.
George, what do you like to do when you have some downtime, spare time?
Yeah. Good question.
Fraction of the whole.
I
With
actually
an H.
just for Christmas, my mum actually bought me a skateboard.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a skater kid now.
Yeah, dude, well, I used to skate when I was like 15 and I was like not bad, but I just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And like recently I was like, I want to get back into it.
Yeah.
And mum was like, I'm buying you a skateboard for Christmas. And it's like best thing I've ever did.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I'm like riding around the streets of South Yarra. I'm still too nervous to head to the skate park. But yeah, so I'm skating a ton right now.
Oh, that's sick.
What about me? Gives him shit. I did the exact same thing like 6 months ago.
I know.
I'm like, oh, skateboard with the
Oh, look at this way.
I get around on a longboard skateboard. I've got my bike, my feet, my skateboard, and then like public transport and Uber. I don't have a car. So like, if I'm going you would have seen it when you were staying with me. Did you see that longboard that I had?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get around on that. But I got myself, because there's a skate park right near my place.
Yeah, it is. The one near the tram,
bridge.
near the tram station.
Yeah. So I kept always walking past it, and then I'd see people skate, and then I'm like, fuck, that's a sick little park.
Yeah.
So, and I knew my brother would have spare setups or whatever. So I got a setup from my brother, and I started skating again at the park. And I landed. It took me. I got a video. I put it on my Instagram doing a board slide on this handrail.
No way.
Yeah. And it took me like 4 hours.
Oh, I love that though.
One board slide.
Yeah.
And I got it on video and then I was like, yes. I picked up my board and I walked off.
Yeah.
All the little kids are doing like Smith grinds on the fucking popping heads and stuff. I just look like the biggest goose. But I want to go down there middle of the day because all the kids are at school.
Yeah.
I don't mind if it's like...
Oh, dude, we should have a session.
Yeah, I know. What did you use to skate? Street or ramp?
Street.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Same.
What was your best trick back in the day?
So I was never that good. The best thing I could pull, I reckon I could do a kickflip like 1 in every 4 tries.
Isn't that like quite hard though? Isn't a kickflip
Yeah, 25% conversion rate on the old kickflip.
yeah, conversion rate.
How would you know what that traction fee? Click the coin. Okay.
No, sweet. I used to love it. That's classic. Cool.
Who is someone you look up to? Someone that inspires you?
Super tough question. For me, it's really my parents. Like I've never had like sporting heroes or anything. I kind of never got into that. For me, it's like always been like my mum and my dad my mum for I guess just like being a good person, like being kind and empathetic, and my dad's like determination and drive is like I love that. So yeah, for me, it's really my parents.
Great. And then final question, mate. If you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be and why would they be there?
It's super tough, right?
Very tough question.
So the first person is definitely Gordon Ramsay.
Ooh.
Gordon Ramsay.
Big G-Dog.
This is fucking shit.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
You fucking donut.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, he's good.
I don't even care about food. I would just love to hang out with that guy.
Yeah. He'd probably bagging the shit out of you though.
Yeah, I do, exactly.
Gordon, fuck off. This is great. I'm having fun.
Second, Genghis Khan.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, Genghis Khan. Man, that guy just conquered the world, right?
Yeah.
So,
I reckon we're all his children. We're all related to him pretty
I don't know
much.
if that's quite right.
No, we're probably not.
Yeah.
But,
He spread the seed like you wouldn't believe.
yeah.
Yeah,
Strong
I've
dick.
heard
Yeah.
But he did.
Oh god!
But he did. Like, he just went nuts.
He did. I wonder about like diseases and stuff back in the day.
Oh god!
He'd have just the most gangrenous dick.
Gangrenous Khan you've ever seen. Gangrenous Khan you've ever seen.
the bun.
God. You've
classic
well and truly
Genghis
fried
Khan.
our brains with cryptocurrency. It's all, the worst of our heads are coming out now.
So we've got Gordon Ramsay, Genghis Khan, his moldy dick. What's he got?
And then I'd go with Gary Vee.
I
love
good.
Gary Vee.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just a
What a
bit of
classic. I wonder
motivation.
how those three get on. I reckon Gordon and Gary...
Gangrenous Khan to bang him. Gary Vee motivated to bang him. And Gordon say the rude shit.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Something like that.
Cool.
Gary Vee's good. I do like Gary Vee. He can be very like, this is what you gotta do. You know,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's a
I'm
bit basic sometimes,
Yeah.
but like just the whole idea of like being positive and like you can do it and like try.
Yeah.
Like, work hard and
that
try. Like
is the big point.
yeah, for sure.
No, I agree. Did you explain why you wanted Genghis Khan there?
Just
yeah.
because like greatest conqueror of all time. Like that guy, like in terms of achievement, that's it.
So what would your questions be to him?
Oh, I don't know if he'd understand me.
No. Yeah, translate it.
Yeah, translate it.
Let's be realistic.
I don't. I'm more so like it's more just like I'd be interested in like his stature. Like
Okay.
you imagine if that guy like owns like all of like Europe and Asia, like when he walks in a room, you must feel something.
Yeah.
Like that's like I wouldn't even want to. I just want to like hang out with that guy.
Yeah.
Just be next to him.
Yeah.
I'd love to know his motives.
He probably just had. It was just probably a really competitive, testosterone dude that wanted to bang every chick and kill every guy. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, George, where can people find you? Anything you want to plug, apart from Gangrenous Khan, and go for it.
Yeah, sure. So hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Coding Up a Storm. And look up Stratus as well. So it's at Stratus Platform on Twitter. We're doing some really cool things, and look out for us in top few coins in the next couple of years.
Sweet. Love it.
Cool, man. Well, Jordan, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Sweet.
Cool. That's a wrap.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.